Good evening, ma'am. My name is Jeremy Felix, and today I will present to you a song called Runaway by Kanye West featuring Pusha T. Runaway by Kanye West featuring Pusha T, as stated by Kanye West. Runaway is supposed to be a song where many of the lyrics have a double meaning, pointing to both romance yet simultaneously his well-documented and often controversial dealings with the media. This musical explosion was supposedly prompted by the time he embarrassed both himself and Taylor Swift at the MTV Video Music Awards in 2009. However, whatever message he is supposedly sending to pop media via Runaway can get lost amidst what for the most part reads like a message to romantic interests and one in particular. With that noted, we will go through this track section by section to try to make the most sense of what's actually going down. Section 1. The track begins with some sampled vocals, primarily via Rick James and buttressed by the equally late James Brown, and apparently the purpose of this section is to get the listener amped in terms of the actual song that follows. Section 2. Now, now the pre-chorus is perhaps the part of the piece that can be most easily understood as a double entendre, i.e. Kanye speaking to both a lady and the media at the same time. But if interpreted as so, that would mean he is more or less acknowledging, in the second line of the passage especially, that he mistreats the media, not vice versa. If he is alluding to his behavior on the 2009 MTV VMA stage and other such questionable public acts, the type of which has helped transform West into a must-see in the world of entertainment, then the said sentiment would make sense. But it wouldn't in relation to the subsequent chorus proper, unless Kanye is referring to himself as a douchebag, an a-hole, or a jerk-off. And according to the most widely accepted explanation of the chorus, that is exactly what's transpiring. Simply put, Jesus is humbling himself, and in doing so, he is verifying that he does in fact have major personality issues at times. Section 3. But again, as far as the actual verses go, they are more squarely focused on the vocalist's exploits in the field of romance. When taking the above analysis into the consideration, it can be postulated that Kanye is going about proving he is, in fact, an a-hole, not by harping on acts like the MTV incident, but rather personal, his love life. So in the first verse, we find him lyrically putting forth that he is a less than ideal lover, someone who is not too good at romance. And what that means is in more practical terms is that he is a womanizer. Simply put, he is a dude who could have a good girl, but instead prefers hoochies and someone who even already has a partner but is still kicking it to others. But then the true manifestation of his a-holish tendencies would be the fact that he then turns around and blames everything on his girlfriend and not himself. So it's like he is not only a cheat, but also emotionally abusive. Section 4. Runaway. Later on, we are introduced to the bridge, which features the titular term, and as it reads, Kanye is actually advising the addressee, i.e. his romantic interest, to flee from him, expeditiously even. And all the song's lyrics considered, he would be instructing her to do so to escape his abuse and mistreatment. Yet, at the same time, it would appear she is not actually keen on going anywhere. So it can be said that the vocalist is trying to force his lover to abandon him, for her own good, and it's frustrating him that she won't follow this advice. And if this is meant to be a roundabout message to the media, then there's an interesting implication. The said implication would be that Kanye is saying something like, stop sweating me so much, or stop harping on every single thing I do or say. Section 5, Pusha T. Then comes Yeezus' collaborator or sidekick Pusha T. Pusha more directly expounds on the romantic premise above, even if somewhat confusingly. That is to say that on one hand, he too recognizes himself as an impenitent player, and accordingly, it is up to whoever lady he is dealing with to decide if they want to be with him or not, since he's not going to change. But then Pusha turns around and mocks the self-same romantic interest. He mocks her on the basis that if she were to actually leave him, she would also be saying goodbye to the economic benefits of moving with T. The rapper then proceeds to criticize hoes as basically being gold diggers, but he understands why they would behave so in the face of true riches, such as those he has to offer. So it's like he's critically analyzing the modern state of romance while simultaneously bragging about his wealth. But as with Kanye, the conclusion is the same, that he's someone who has no intent of forsaking his playa lifestyle. Therefore, it's up to his woman friend to decide whether they can tolerate Push's movements or not. The true meaning. So as implied earlier, yes, listeners have to use a bit of imagination to put together all of what's going on here. In true hip hop fashion, the vocalists are shameless as far as presenting themselves as womanizers, but concurrently, Kanye West, at least, is mature enough to understand that behaving in such a manner is not ideal. Or getting straight to the point, he has personality flaws. And this is not something only fans of the MTV VMAs have noticed, but also uses himself. However, in relaying this conclusion, he puts it into context of how he is an imperfect lover, and if the primary addressee is to be interpreted as a personification of the mainstream media, then basically what Kanye is saying is that they have to excuse him at times. And why? Because he has now, in his own artistic way, humbled himself by admitting, contrary to how he usually behaved in public back in those days especially, that he isn't flawless. Thank you for your time, man. Goodbye.